Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Testimony Thursdays. I'm your host, Dr. Jazz, physical therapist, child of God, author, auntie, mentor, daughter, sister, friend, all of the things that the Lord has blessed me with today. And we are going to get into this episode, y'all, because I have a feeling we are going to be talking a lot. So we're going to hop right in with this special guest that the Lord has blessed us with. So before we get started, we're going to start with our scripture. This is one of my favorite scriptures. Psalms 127:3. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. So yes, we will be talking about some great kids today and how our guest is impacting their lives in a positive way. So let's get right into it. Miss Felicia, could you please introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, my name is Felicia with One for All Academy LLC, and I'm a tutor, the tutor teacher.
Amazing tutor. That's that, y'all. And y'all know I love how to tell how I met people. You know, I love to give a story. So Miss Felicia is actually my nephew's tutor. And I went to, y'all know I'm a very involved auntie. So I went to his tutoring session and his dad was just telling me about how his tutor was amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to go. Like I really want to see it. And I went to her place in her business and I walked in and first of all, y'all know I'm very observant. I walked in and I saw the Bible at the front. I saw scriptures. I was like, oh, this lady is a lady of faith. Who is this lady? And then, I mean, Jackson, and that's another thing too, because I was wondering, Jackson is like spelling his name out loud and he'll be like J for something, A for something, C for something. And when he got to O, he was like, oh, for octopus. And I was like, Jackson, where did you get that from? So when I went to the tutoring session, like I love the way she structured the session. Like she had Jackson come in. It was very child led, and Jackson was like reading a book, and she was going over like the letters and the days of the week and the months. And Jackson was having so much fun, and he would look back and he would laugh at me, and I would laugh, and it was just like it was awesome. And like this session was basically over. And I was talking to Miss Felicia. I'm like, girl, how did you start this? Like, where are you from? Tell me about you, like all of these things. And Jackson's dad was kind of like, okay, girl, like you got her number, like get her on your podcast. We need to go. And I'm like, okay, fine. But I just love the way that my nephew loves you. Like I love when my sister sends me videos. The recent video she sent me was when you were teaching him like the word lights and he was like saying the letters out loud and then you let him touch the lights and then he there was some another thing that you did and, oh he was sitting down, I think he was writing his name or something, and he was just looking at you smiling and I'm like, Jackson loves her, like oh my gosh. But okay, let me stop talking, let's get into it. We're gonna do a little icebreaker because you are such an amazing teacher. I was wondering if you had any teachers in your life that you can think of that really inspired you to be like a teacher or tutor, anybody that you can think of.
Well, my aunt, she was a professor, so I would go to her house for the summer, and it started off with the typewriter, and then another year she had a word processor, and and then after that it was the computer. But I just when you said that she was the first person that popped up, um, and I thought I was just supposed to be typing. And so, because that's how I learned how to type, was using whatever she had. Because I used to love to hear the sounds. Um, I guess when she was doing whatever she was doing for her students or whatever. So she was like the first teacher. And then I remember before that, I remember saying I wanted to be a teacher. And then I ended up working in a daycare for a friend of mine at the time, and then she started off in her house, so she was another teacher because she taught students, and then from there, she had a center, a daycare center. So I worked in every classroom, and I gained a lot of information from the teachers there, and then I ended up teaching. Even though I was a floater, I would end up teaching. From there, I had my in-home, and then now this.
Well, shout out to your auntie. That's wonderful that we have people in our lives that can inspire us and to really push us towards our calling. Because like how you said, you thought, typing was going to be like your career, but it really led you to being a teacher, being a tutor. And can you talk a little bit about your facility, like how you have it structured? I see that you're in it right now. That was the room that I was in with all the money. But I mean, y'all, it's a beautiful, like when I post this episode, I'm definitely gonna have to post a link to her social media because I mean, the room, the house is just beautiful. So if you could touch on that a little.
Um, yeah, so I felt like, well, first of all, I was in the bed and I was thinking about um I was just laying there. And at the time I worked at the daycare, and three of my students popped up in my head. And so I was thinking, I said, God, you want me to start a daycare? I just said that. And even saying that, I thought, where did I even get that from? Um, and so I said, yeah, right. What would I name it? And One for All Childcare Services came to my head. So I jumped up and I wrote it down. And I was like, what? That doesn't even make sense. That sounds silly. And I kept looking at it, and it's my last name. So the One for All, the ONE, um, the number, if you take out the 4 and the extra L, it has O'Neal. So that's how I knew. I was like, this is weird. Because it was in the middle of the night. And so I was like, this is really weird. Um, and so I sat on it for a while because I just thought, because if you know me, I love to joke. I love to have fun. So when it comes down to being a leader and being on the forefront, I never saw that for me. Um, and so that's how the journey began.
Gosh.
And then what else? So then from there, I ended up I just answered the call. I just because me and the lady that I was working for, we were friends, and she was talking about another location. And so we got there, and it was a daycare, 7,500 square foot daycare. I don't remember the full conversation. I just remember the owner giving me the keys. And I didn't pay anything for that building for a whole year. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but so I just was thinking, what is going on? It was a daycare before, um, and it needed to be cleaned up, but everything was there. Um, and so I just remember thinking, what in the world just happened? And so I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, why me? And she was like, why not you? And when she said that, it changed. It was like a switch, like, okay, you're gonna have to change. Um, and so I had that building. Um, Even the furniture is a whole different story about that, everything that you see. But I put it in the building, and I ended up not getting it, but I think it was because I still wasn't believing. Like I still wasn't believing that I'm supposed to be a business owner. Um, and so I think that's why, and then the person who had the building after me, he told me, he said, don't look back. He said, what God has for you, Greenville is not even ready for. And now that what I see, what I'm doing now, I understand because it's not anything like what I'm already doing. So it makes sense. That was back in 2009. No, 2011.
Oh my good. No, seriously, seriously, seriously. Like, even when I went there, I was like, yeah, like you are on to something like so big for you. And let's backtrack a little bit. One, because of your friend, like thank your friend that, they were planting those seeds of just resilience in your head and like a new perspective. And that's why it's important
Mhm.
to have people around you that support you. Like if I tell you my dream, or even if I don't tell you my dream and you see something in me, like our friends can see like, hey Jazz, like you're actually really good at talking. Or you talk a lot. Like maybe you should have a
Mhm.
podcast. Or those different things. And even with me, like my friends have been telling me to start a podcast like years ago. So God will put people in your lives to show you, what your gifts are. So that was
Mhm.
wonderful. And yes, I mean that, and like how you said too, like you weren't believing yet that you could be a
Mhm.
business owner. So sometimes, the Lord has to continue to work on our minds, because
Mhm.
if we aren't at that stage yet and then we get something, we can like lose the blessing, or we can get the blessing prematurely.
Mhm.
So wow, 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 wow. So the building that you're currently in, how did you get all of that started? The house that you,
I'm in my home.
so what made you say like, okay, like I already have
Okay.
a
So I okay. So the building, so the guy was like, don't look back. And then I had lost my mom. And so I lost my mom, I lost the building, and I was like, I'm done. Like I can't. This is a lot. And so I was in the process of getting ready to get rid of everything. And my cribs are daycare approved. So I had called the people back and I was like, hey, I want to sell y'all my cribs because I'm not going to do this any longer. And I can't remember what happened as to why it didn't take place, but I started working at Dillard's for a part-time job. And so it was a lot going on. I almost lost my house, just a lot. And so um God had started what TD Jakes calls a download. And it was all these ideas just flooding me while I'm at Dillard's. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? So I started writing these things down. And it was this lady that I used to work with at the daycare. He showed me her. And I was like, God, what are you telling me? What's going on? By this time, I'm not working at the daycare anymore. I'm working somewhere else and dealers. And so I ended up getting out of foreclosure. And I had everything in a storage. And then God had started showing me to put it in my house. And so I was like, okay. And it would be just like random where he wanted everything to go. Just I would see the picture. And I'm like, what? Because this room that I'm in, I love this room. It was like a hangout spot. I wanted it to be a hangout spot. So I would have the living room and like a den. That's what I had turned it into. Um, and this is what he wanted. And I fought this for months because I was like, we can put this somewhere else. I want to keep this couch. The couch was new, everything in here, the TV. But he wouldn't let me go. It was like a tap. Like, and he would show me this is where I want this and this is where I want that. And that's how it started. I had to get rid of my couch, um, everything. He showed me what room he wanted what in. Now I've changed it around since, but yeah. And once I did that, no more tapping.
no more tapping. Wow. And I'm telling you, your house is so beautiful. Like
Thank you.
you walk us through, not literally walk us through, but just talk about like what each room is and how you have it structured for learning.
Yes. So like when you first come in the house, a lot of people say they can't tell that it's that when you turn to your right is the daycare because it just looks like a regular house. So when you come in, you go to the right, it's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. Um, one of the bedrooms is the classroom. And then when you go down to the next, it's the playroom. And then the other room is going to be like a rec room. where kids can still play in there or whatever they want to do. Um, and so, yeah.
Y'all, she's being modest right now. Okay, so when you walk in, yes, you can't tell it's like it's a daycare, it's a learning center. But then, like, I was excited when I went to the right because when you go into like that first room, it's the books. She has like a the computer where she can go on YouTube. She has a bunch of different posters, a bunch of toys. And I love the way that you teach because that's how I learn the best. Like I learn the best when I'm using all of my senses. So like I know with Jackson, we were going over colors and she had Lay's. So she took Lay's out the basket and she was like, okay, put yellow on TT. And then he would put yellow on me. And then like she had like the not the sponges. What you call the thing when you take a bath? The that thing.
They're called
That
loofahs. I'm not sure what they're called.
I forgot what that's
Yeah.
called. But those,
Mhm.
so then you can touch it and the texture feels different and it gets you excited like to learn and to go over things and go over your colors and all that. So that and then she was telling me about one of her students that was learning how to count and I think like pay bills and she had like different envelopes for like where to place the bills or how to count the money. And then it's another room like in the back and it has like a kitchen and Jackson loves to play with like food and like the little grocery cart. So he's putting stuff in there and moving the grocery cart around the house. And then she has a desk where kids can sit down and like write their name. And then she has a backyard. So Jackson loves to be outside too. And I love to be outside. So too, you know, like when kids start to get a little antsy and they want to move around and do a bunch of things. You go in the backyard, and then she has like this bin of like balls and I think it was bubbles in there. I think we were looking for the bubbles.
Yeah.
But
The
yep,
bubbles, the chalk.
bubbles, the chalk, like all of those things. So, you know, kids can learn the way that is best for them. And how did you like think of that? I think with teachers, we think that okay, kids are supposed to sit down all day and maybe get up, you know, when everyone gets up, and then we got to go to circle time and everybody has to sit down. And during circle time, like you have to okay, like for example, like Jackson can focus on a bunch of different things at once, but you might not know that because he might not be looking at you. So when he was reading his book and you had like the different animals, like he would read his book and then you were like, what animal is this? And he was like, sheep. And then he would keep reading, but
Mhm.
you knew that he was retaining the information, but you didn't say, all right, Jackson, like we need to put the book down and you need to sit at this desk and you need to do this and that. How did you come up with that method?
Um, so I had my in-home daycare, and every morning, as soon as I walked out of my bedroom and I would close the door, God would show me a child and what he wanted that child to do. So it would be puzzles. It could be a numbers puzzle. It could be letters puzzle. And so how I came up with the concept that I have now is I took pieces from my daycare that I liked and I made the business out of it. And those were the ideas that I got from that. And then fast forward to 2022, I was diagnosed with adult ADHD, with general anxiety. So um, I can't sit for a long period of time anyway. And I'm over here, and sometimes I'm over there, and sometimes I'm over here. Well, the kids are always able to keep up, so it just made it easier. But that's where I got that from. Um, is those visions, and it seems to work with the students that I have today.
Wow. And then if you don't mind like talking about how did you proceed with getting tested for adult ADHD? Like how did you what made you want to go and talk to a professional about that?
I was in I went to school for my associates, and I wasn't doing good. And so they were telling me that I needed to be tested. So they tested me through a therapist. Um I have not been tested by, because there's someone here in Greenville that will test you. But back in 2022, or was it 2021? Whatever time it was, they were charging $2,100 to test you for everything. And so I didn't have $2,100. So I just took what they said, what the therapist had said. And it makes sense when I do my research. I talk a lot. I'm easily to be distracted. Um, it's hard to gain my attention, things like that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Because, yeah, a lot of people, we go through life and we struggle with certain different things. And then when we get older, we're like, wait a minute, like maybe I should have looked into that when I was or gotten accommodations. Like even for me, my testimony, I failed out of physical therapy school in my first year, and I had to petition to get back in and finish the program. But I had test anxiety, and I didn't even know like what that was. I didn't even know that was a thing until my professor like brought it up to me and was pointing out different things that like I would do well on the short answer, but she was like the multiple choice, it doesn't even make sense why you're choosing those answers. And I remember like I used to cry during exams, like because I would just get so nervous, like my hands would sweat. I was just like, I can't do this. But it's like it was just like I couldn't even when I walked in the classroom, like nobody could talk to me. I could not talk to anybody before I took a test. And I wish like in school I would have gotten accommodations, like had my own test room, had extra time to take a test. But with the hustle and bustle, you're just trying to get through things and just trying to get your degree. So I would encourage people to, take a step back, figure out, why you're struggling, talking to your professors, going to talk to a therapist, even if they have one in your program at your school, to figure out how you can best get your needs met, because we shouldn't have to struggle when we can get accommodations. So thank you for sharing that. And how long have you had your business open, One for All?
One for All has been open since I first started in 2011, and then I shut it down and I opened it back up in 2016. So somebody told me that I can go ahead and count 2011. I figured since I took a break from it, I didn't. But from 2011 until today.
That is awesome. And it's okay. Sometimes we got to take a break to regroup and get it back together. What would you say is the best thing about being a business owner?
Nothing. I don't like being a business owner. I like the craft. So I love, like, each one of my students, I figure out ways to help them learn. Um, and that's my goal. So I love that. Um, I love making it fun. Um, I love all of that. The business part I can do without.
You know what? No, it's so funny because I feel the same way. Like even for like with my podcast and with social media, and I know we talked about this like off camera, like being more consistent when I post and stuff. Like for me, I love talking. I love hearing people's stories. I love hearing testimony, but I don't like editing. I don't like posting on social media. And with my previous guest, like she was like asking me if I was going to edit the episode and stuff, and I was like, "Well, if you can edit the episode, because I really don't know how to do it." But then she ended up not doing it. We just posted it as is. But like, I like how you said, like the craft of things, but like the producing and like all of those things is not my favorite. But I do like one of my biggest inspirations is Tyler Perry. And I remember him saying like how just when he was coming up, like doing his plays and then going into movies and all of those things, like even now he knows how to do every single thing on his team. Like he knows how to pay the bills, he knows how to act, he knows how to produce, he knows how to do those things. So when he did get bigger and he grew in his industry, nobody could play with him. And I feel like that's what God is teaching.
Mhm.
Like, okay, like yes, you don't like to do the business owner things, or for me, yes, you don't like to produce and like edit, but you need to know how to do those things. So when it does grow
Mm-hmm.
and we have that capacity and we have that overflow, and then we can bring somebody in to like pay them to do those things, it's like, okay, well, this is how I want it. And then even like I'm a big
Right.
Beyonce fan too. Like with Beyonce, she knows everything in her production. Like she knows what down to like what type of camera lens she wants to use. So it's like, you need to start at that level and do those things that you might
Mhm.
not, it might not be your favorite, but once you get to a certain spot, it's like, okay, you can kind of back off of those things. So I definitely feel you with that. That was gonna be my next question, like what's the least favorite? Um, but with kids, like I love working with kids too because they are, you have to be creative and you have to have fun. And that's my
Mhm.
thing. Like I love having fun. Like I can only be serious for it's like a cap, only for a certain amount of time. And then after that, I have to tell a joke. I gotta laugh. But with your kids, it's like, can you tell us a story about one of your students that has just made a memorable impact on you and mark on you and keeps you motivated?
I have a student who started off nonverbal. So he would randomly say one word, and now he's talking. Um, and it is the best feeling in the world, um, to have witnessed that. Um, and yeah, it to have witnessed, um, and not just him, like other students, to go from one parent told me, um, years ago, she said, my child came in a baby, and she said they walk out differently. And so that's how I feel about these children, even right down to Jackson. Jackson is not the same Jackson. Um, and I think that God is, he is doing something. I don't know what. And I tell people all the time, I don't do nothing without praying about it first. So, um, even right down to the children that come, I ask the Lord, only bring who you want to be here. Um, I'm not full in students, but it is just the way that God wants it because I'm learning, like you said. And so they're all in their own way. It is what motivates me, yeah, to go from not talking to talking. And that's not the first child. Like I just thought of another student that I had. You couldn't understand anything that he was saying. And now he before he left, he was talking perfectly. Um, so yeah, but that's what God do. That's what he do. I'm just a vessel.
Girl, we're gonna have to end it soon because I'm about to cry right
No,
now.
don't
But
cry.
and I'm glad that you talked about that because I remember when we met, we said we're gonna name the episode "Everything Is Language," and so
Mhm.
that kind of ties all the way back in. But yes, and everything that we do, like especially now, like my journey, my spiritual journey, I'm on with the Lord, with Jesus. Everything that I do, I want it to be ministry. And I didn't think about that like years ago, but now, like, even with my podcast, even with my career, like how you said, like, you're helping kids communicate. And that is just a beautiful feeling because it's tough to not know, what your child needs and what your child wants if they can't express themselves. But even with me, like I can think of so many scenarios of like movement, helping kids move, like if that's with a
Mhm.
wheelchair, that's with a walker. If like I can think of so many like stories and testimonies where kids come in and they're crawling and then years later they're walking, or like I just
Mhm.
had one of my former patients, she like drew me a picture. It's right here. Well, let me not put her name in it, but she drew me a picture, and her mom was like, can she send this to you? And I was like, oh,
Aww.
like send it to me in the mail. And just oh my gosh, like so many things that and even with like our career choice, we're not gonna see it always happen overnight. Like it may take
Mm-hmm.
years, but we're planting those seeds for today so we can see it grow and prosper in the future. But thank you so much for sharing that. I can talk to you forever. So we're definitely gonna have to do like a part two, hopefully something in person. But I am so thankful for you. I'm thankful that Jackson has people in his life that are praying, you know, before they service him and before they help him grow. Like in that's also it's I love that you said that because that can be a challenging prayer to pray, especially, you know, when because I say the same prayer and I'm like, all right, Lord, you know, when's the overflow coming in?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna be a millionaire by now, Lord. What's because this is a great idea, Jesus. This is a great idea. What's going on? So to pray that and to be so solid in your values is it's an important thing to do, but it's not always an easy thing to do. So
it's it's not easy. It is part of me has had to die. There are still other parts that I struggle with because I understand this is not mine, this is God's. And so um I'm still a work in progress, but I do and my friends will tell you, she not even right down to, hey, I want you to take this class. I immediately go into prayer because that might not be where God want me to go. Um, and so I have realized that the more that I walk in this, I answer the call and I take it serious. So I don't get upset when it's a no. Um, and you know, I'm constantly praying over every name that's on that table, every name that's on that sign-in sheet. Um, and I try to detach myself from it because again, God told me one time when I had a parent, she was like, "Oh, you did this and you did that. I just want to thank you for my child." And I had turned my head, and God said, "I did that." So I'm not trying to be so I try to be real careful because it's easy to start, then you get the big head. Now you don't need God. You know, you have to, you know, I try to be real careful with a lot of things because I don't want them to remind me, you know, I did that. So I do want people to understand it. God is using me, and a lot of these things that I do I hadn't had a lot of training in it. It's just something that God has showed me only for people to tell me because I was a vendor a couple weeks ago, a month or so ago, and I'm introducing what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds like some ABA therapy that you're doing. Oh, that sounds like this," and I'm like, "What?" You know, but that's God. You know what I'm saying? So I do want to put that out there. None of this is me. And even right down to the people that I accept, I ask God to block who you don't want to come. Um, so like you said, I'm not rich by any means. However, I only want who God wants to come because this is who it's about is God.
girl, you done got me crying. You done got me doing it. No, that's yeah, that is powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that. And how we end every episode, we talk about a test that we went through that led to a testimony or a test that we're currently going through that leads to a testimony. So if you could touch on that.
A test that leads to a testimony. Um, mm, I'm adopted, and um, I'm adopted by wonderful people who have passed away, but I have detachment issues. So the testimony is I'm able to connect with my students. I have no connection with friends, family. and my friends and family are aware of that. Um, don't mean that we're not friends. It means that if for some reason we split up as friends, I don't connect. That's it doesn't bother me. Um, and so I've prayed about that, but the testimony is I'm able to connect with the children, and that's what they need. They need that connection. They have to have it in order to be able to receive what I'm trying to give to them.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a lot of vulnerability. And I will be praying for you with that as well, because you're part of my family now. So, you know, yes, I am so thankful for you. I cannot express that enough. Um, and if you could share your social media so people can know where to find you, where to connect with you, if they're interested in receiving your services.
Sure, it's on Facebook. It's One for All. That's ONE, the number four, ALL Academy. And then on Instagram, I am One for All Academy LLC, or Felicia 007. Um, and that's on Instagram.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. I
I
will
got my
be
TikTok, but it's not, I don't post on TikTok like that. So yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like, I just can't. TikTok is not user friendly, in my opinion. But yes, we have to keep posting and sharing the Lord's work, like how you said, this is all of him, and none of us. But thank you for this episode. Another episode of Testimony Thursdays, y'all. Follow me at Testimony Thursdays on Instagram and TikTok, and Dr. Jasmine Blocker on Instagram and TikTok as well. And thank you so much, Miss Felicia. You were amazing. I'm so blessed. I am overjoyed to have you in our lives. So thank you, everyone. See you all next week.
Bye bye. Thank you.